My name is Brian Lawson. I'm 67 years old. And somewhere along the way, while I was busy being reliable, I lost touch with myself. I didn't notice it happening. That's the part that still surprises me. I thought losing yourself would feel loud, dramatic, like something breaking. But it was quiet. It was slow. It felt like doing the right thing over and over until one day you look up and realize you don't recognize the man doing it. I'm telling this now because there isn't much later left. I don't need anyone to agree with me. I don't need forgiveness. I just need to say it out loud while I still can. Sometimes I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I don't really want and stare at the same spot on the wall where a calendar used to hang. I don't mark days anymore. There's a strange freedom in that, but also a sadness. When you're young, days feel endless. When you're old, they feel like objects you're holding too carefully, afraid one might slip and break. I think a lot now. About things I did. About things I didn't. About the version of myself I kept postponing. I used to believe being dependable was the highest form of love. Show up. Provide. Don't complain. Handle it. I was proud of that. I still am, in some ways. But pride can be a quiet thief. It takes things while telling you it's protecting them. When I was younger, in my 20s, I didn't think about identity. I didn't think about purpose. I thought about rent, about gas, about making sure the light stayed on. I got my first steady job at 23. It wasn't glamorous. Warehouse logistics. Early mornings, late afternoons. Concrete floors. Clipboards. A supervisor who liked to remind us we were replaceable. But it paid on time. It paid enough. That mattered to me more than anything. I had grown up watching my father scramble. Good man. Tired man. Always worried. Bills were stacked on the counter like a second job. I promised myself I wouldn't live that way. I promised I'd be solid. Unshakable. So when my friends talked about chasing dreams or taking risks, I nodded and smiled and went back to work. Somebody had to be the responsible one. I didn't resent them. Not really. I just thought I was being smarter. I met my wife, Karen, when I was 27. She worked in an office 2 floors above mine. We shared an elevator for months before we ever spoke. She had a laugh that filled small spaces. A practical laugh. Like she knew how the world worked but still found it funny. She liked that I was steady. She said it made her feel safe. That word meant everything to me. We married 2 years later. Modest ceremony. Family, a few friends. I remember standing there thinking, this is it. I've done it right. I've built something solid. And I had. Just not the whole thing. Our life together was fine. That's not an insult. Fine can be good. We had routines. Sunday grocery shopping. Friday leftovers. I fixed things. She organized things. We didn't fight much. We didn't talk deeply either. When our first son was born, something shifted. Not in a dramatic way. More like the air pressure changed. Suddenly, there was more responsibility, and I leaned into it like it was a familiar weight. I took extra shifts. Overtime. Promotions when they came. Each one meant more hours, more stress, but also more proof that I was doing my job as a man. As a father, I told myself I'd slow down later. When things were more secure. When the kids were older. When there was more time. There was always supposed to be more time. I missed small things first. A preschool play because of a deadline. A family dinner because a truck was late. Karen would say, "It's okay," and I believed her. Or maybe I needed to. I was always tired. But I wore that tiredness like a badge. It meant I was useful. I didn't ask myself what I wanted. I asked what was needed. Over and over. After a while, the first question stopped forming at all. In my 30s, I stopped noticing music. That sounds strange, but it's true. I used to love music. I had records. I played them loud in my apartment before Karen. Before kids. Somewhere along the way, the radio became noise. Something to fill the silence while I planned the next thing. I didn't notice that either. Karen tried a few times to talk. Not confrontations. Just comments. "You're always working. You seem far away." I'd kiss her forehead and say, "Just tired." Which was true. It just wasn't the whole truth. The kids grew. Fast. Faster than I expected. One minute you're holding them. The next thing they're rolling their eyes at you. I thought I'd have time to catch up. To know them better later. I told myself they'd understand. That one day, they'd see how hard I worked for them. I don't know if they do. By my 40s, my job had become my personality. People introduced me by my title. I liked that. It meant something. It meant I mattered somewhere. At home, I was quieter. Less sure. I didn't know how to talk about feelings. I knew how to solve problems. So when there weren't clear problems, I stayed silent. Karen filled the gaps. Until she got tired of filling them. We didn't explode. We eroded. One night, sitting across from each other at the table, she said, I feel alone even when you're here." Her voice wasn't angry. That scared me more. I wanted to fix it. I just didn't know how without breaking everything else I thought was holding us together. So I did what I always did. I worked harder. I thought security would make space for intimacy later. Later never came. The slow cost of that choice didn't announce itself. It showed up in empty chairs at school events, in conversations that ended with "never mind," in the way Karen stopped waiting up for me. I noticed, but I didn't stop. I thought stopping would mean failing. And failing felt worse than losing parts of myself I didn't fully understand yet. My body started talking before my mind did. Back pain, high blood pressure, sleepless nights. Doctors told me to slow down. I nodded and went back to work. Dependable people don't quit. Then my mother got sick. Cancer. Fast and unforgiving. I took time off then. Sat in hospital rooms that smelled like antiseptic and regret. She held my hand and said, "You work too much." Even then, I smiled and told her it was fine. She died on a Tuesday afternoon. I went back to work the following Monday. That should have been the moment. The wake-up call. But grief doesn't always clarify. Sometimes it just makes you cling harder to what you know. Karen moved out 3 years later. No shouting. No accusations. Just boxes and a quiet understanding that we had already been living separate lives. The divorce papers were efficient. Like a business transaction. That felt appropriate, in a sad way. I stayed in the house. It felt easier than starting over. The rooms got quieter. Dust settled where toys used to be. The kids visited. Less and less as they built lives of their own. I told myself that was normal. It is normal. It's also lonely. I retired at 65. People threw a party. Cake. Speeches about my dedication. I smiled for pictures. Then I went home and realized I didn't know what to do the next morning. Work had given my days shape. Without it, time spilled everywhere. Long afternoons. Even longer evenings. That's when it hit me. Not all at once. In pieces. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know how to sit with myself. The silence felt accusing. Like it was asking questions I didn't have answers for. I tried hobbies. Golf. Woodworking. None of it stuck. It felt like borrowing someone else's life. Then came the call about my old friend, Mark. Heart attack. Gone in his sleep. We used to talk about taking a trip together. One day, we always said, I stood at his funeral and realized how many days I had left unfinished. That was the turning point. Not because I decided to change, but because I realized I couldn't. The clarity didn't feel empowering. It felt heavy, like seeing the edge of a cliff, too late to stop walking. There are things that can't be fixed. Relationships that don't rewind. Years that don't reopen. I can't go back and sit on the floor with my kids when they were small. I can't be present in moments that already passed without me. I can't become the man I postponed. I can only be the man I am now. And that man carries a lot of quiet regret. I still love my family. Deeply. That never went away. But love without presence leaves gaps. Gaps that grow. Sometimes my son calls. We talk about the weather. About work. He sounds like me. That both comforts and frightens me. I want to tell him everything. But I don't want to burden him with my hindsight. He has his own life to live. So I sit with it. If you're listening to this, I'm not here to warn you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I just want you to know what it feels like to reach this age and realize you were so busy being needed that you forgot to be alive. Being dependable matters. It does. But it shouldn't cost you your voice, your curiosity, your presence. I wish I had known that doing the right thing can still leave you empty if you never ask who you're doing it for. I wish I had known that time doesn't slow down when you ask it to wait. Now, my days are simpler. I walk. I read slowly. I listen more than I talk. Sometimes I put on music again. Old records. They sound different now. Softer. Sadder. Truer. I don't expect redemption. I don't expect a second act. I expect more mornings like this. Quiet. Honest. And that's enough. If this meant something to you, you don't have to do anything with it. Just hold it for a moment. Let it sit. I'm Brian Lawson. I'm 67 years old. And this is the truth I finally stopped running from. I'll be here a little while longer. Trying, at last, to be present for it.